Good evening, everyone. Today is going to be a 66 Sutta discussion on Mondays. The topic for today is going to be obstructing spiritual progress. A threefold: material possessions, in Pali we call it labha; honor, we call it sakkara in Pali; and popularity, we call it siloka in Pali. So obstructing spiritual progress are threefold: material possessions, labha, honor, sakkara, and popularity, siloka, according to the Dharuna Sutta. This is also mentioned in the Samyutta Nikaya, but in a different Samyutta. We call it labha sakkara Samyutta, which is most probably, I guess, 17, I guess. So this sutta deals with obstructions that we all experience. We may experience. Probably we may be experiencing already in the path to Nibbana. Both as a layperson and as a monastic. So do not think that this is only for the lay people. For the monastics. It is for the both. Especially on the path to Nibbana. It doesn't matter whether you are a layperson or a monk or a nun. It does matter how you handle these things in your life. Let's take a look at the sutta in Pali. It is a very short sutta, but we're gonna be, looking at different connected sutta, a couple suttas, maybe one sutta, so that we can understand what it really means. The sutta's name is Dharuna. Dharuna means brutal. Dharuna simply means brutal. Evaṁ me sutaṁ ekaṁ samayam bhagavā sāvatyang viharati cetavani anātha pindikasārāmi tatrako bhagavā bhikkhu āmantesi bhikkhavoti badanteti ko te bhikkhu bhagavato paccassosu bhagavāi tadavoca. This is the background story. So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jetas Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. There the Buddha addressed the mendicants or monastics. Venerable Sir, they replied, the Buddha said this: Daruno bhikkhave labha sakkara siloko katuko paruso antarayiko anuttarassa yoga kemassa adigamaya. Possessions, honor, and popularity are brutal, bitter, and harsh. Let's take a look at the Pali words Buddha used in talking these particular thought. Daruna means brutal. I mean, what is brutal? In the way how anyone handles possessions, honor, and popularity. Labha means possessions, material possessions, and siloko, sakkara means honor, and siloko means popularity. These three are, so much cherished, highly anticipated things in the society, no matter what it comes from. But these three have something to think about when it comes to the noble path. They are not easily, considered. They are to be considered little bit, details, especially when it comes to, to handle these three. So these three, possessions, honor, and popularity, they are Daruno, brutal, Katuko, bitter, and Paruso, harsh. So brutal, bitter, and harsh. Not even that. Antara iko anuttarassa yogakkemassa adhigamaya. They are an obstacle to reaching the supreme nibbana. So they are obstacles, possessions, honor, and popularity. They are really obsessions. Antaraiko means obstacles. Anuttarassa yogakkemassa. Anuttara means supreme. Yogakkemassa is nibbana. Adhigamaya is reaching. So they are obstacles to reaching the supreme nibbana. Now, this is the most interesting thing that we can see in the suttas, especially in this sutta as well. Now, even Buddha spoke about this particular thing, that these three material possessions, the way how the lay people and monks and monastics handle material possessions and honor and popularity. Things could come up to them in different ways, especially when it comes to the nibbana. They can play a different role when the way how monastics and lay people handle these three. That's why Buddha teaches us the solution to handle these three. How did he say? Tasma tiha bhikkhave evaṃ sikkhitāpaṃ uppannang labha sakkara silokam pajahissāma naca no uppanno labha sakkara siloko chittang pariyādāya tassatīti evaṃ hivo bhikkhave sikkhitāpaṃ. So Buddha teaches monks that how you should train yourself in handling these three. So you should train like this. We will give up arisen possessions, honor, and popularity, and we won't let them occupy our minds. That's how we should train. Now the thing is, we will give up arisen possessions. Now this could be sometimes mental attachment to these things. I think most importantly, people get attached to possessions. Possessions mentally more than physically. I think physically they are attaching to, but that's why in the karmas we understand there are two karmas, vatu karma and kilesa karmas. Kilesa karma means attachment to karmas, especially mental attachment to karmas, and vatu karma means attachment to physical things, right? So if someone can confine, limit one's attachments at least to levels where they can sort of deal with these things, possessions, honor, and material possessions, honor, and popularity, they are really good. But for the monastics, they are not supposed to hoard, and they are not supposed to expect honor. They are not supposed to expect popularity, so that it's easy for them. But they should understand that they are not supposed to. In the case of a layperson, it could be different. As a layperson, you need to study, you need to get a good job, you need to make relationships, you need to promote, you may need to compete. So there are different things, but how it could relate to you is you can still have to sort of deal with them, but without being a slave to those things. Don't be a slave to the material possession. Don't be a slave to honor. Don't be a slave to popularity. Some people, they are very they become so much so much, sort of like dominated by material possessions, honor, and popularity. They do bad things today. They bribe. They give money. They do a lot of unrighteous things to keep their possessions in hands, or sort of like compete and all these things because they want to keep possessions that bad. What about honor? Some people also bribe, some people also do indirect things, cheating things, swindling things. Also, some people may, I would say, they may do a lot of unrighteous things to keep, retain, develop, increase their honor as well as popularity. People who want to be famous, they do a lot of things. They are not righteous. But I mean, it's not bad to keep possessions, material possessions, because if you can earn what you really need, if you can earn honor in the right way, if you can earn popularity in the right way, it's no problem. But don't be a slave to your material possessions, honor, and popularity. Because do not think that I want to be this popular, I want to be this honorable, I want to be this possessive. This is pretty bad. As a layperson, you still need to keep up with these things. You may need these things. It's not bad, no harm. But you shouldn't be a slave to these things. You should not do unrighteous things to get these things. Okay, so that's the main thing to understand. And also, Buddha says that we should not let material possessions, labha, honor, sakkara, and popularity, siloka, take over our minds, occupy our minds. So it's interesting too, because our mind is the place where we do all the wholesome spiritual things. So if the mind always occupies with these things, I think we are in trouble, a lot of trouble. So then we have to be very careful how we can keep our mind, how can we keep our mind clear from these things, material possessions, honor, and popularity. I mean, although you may have to deal with them, but you are not trying to let your mind to be a slave to those things. Okay, so this is the sutta, but in order to understand this sutta better, I'm trying to share with you another interesting sutta, because in this sutta we call Dharma Sutta, we see that labha, sakkara, siloka, they all are things that people like. So how can we keep our mind balanced? How can we keep our mind not becoming a slave to these things? So in order to find out that particular balance, or I would say upekkha, this is the proper word that I use, upekkha, how to stay balance, how to stay with upekkha in the midst of all these material gains, whatever popularity. In order to talk about that, we can find out a very interesting sutta called Vitatta Loka Dhamma Sutta, which is in the Anguttara Nikaya, but it's not in the Samyutta Nikaya, it's in the Anguttara Nikaya, 8th Nipata. Vitatta Loka Dhamma Sutta. Let me read that sutta so that you may understand it properly. In that sutta, Buddha says, Attime bhikkhave loka dhamma lokang anuparivattanti. Lokocha atta loka dhamme anuparivattati. Katame atta labhocha alabhocha. Yasocha ayasocha. Nindacha pasansacha. Sukhancha dukkhancha. Bhikkhus, monks, these eight worldly conditions, or we call in some English terms, vicissitudes, 8 vicissitudes, or 8 worldly conditions, revolve around the world. And the world revolves around those 8 worldly conditions. Now, Now the thing is, the world in this context means internal world, especially our inside, right? Because in the Buddhist teachings, Buddha sort of emphasizes this inner world, not this cosmological world, because cosmological world has nothing to do with the ending of suffering, ending of dukkha. So it's this it's in this one fathom body we had to deal with dukkha, suffering. That's why Buddha says these 8 worldly conditions, or 8 vicissitudes, revolve around the world, our internal world, and internal world revolves around those 8 worldly conditions or vicissitudes. What 8? Gain and loss, disrepute and fame, blame and praise, and pleasure and pain. Now these are called Atta Loka Dhamma in the Pali teaching. So we know that sometimes we may be able to have a gain, sometimes we may be lost with something, sometimes we may be getting some disrepute for something we have done. Sometimes we may get a lot of fame, sometimes we may be blamed, sometimes we may be praised, sometimes we feel happiness, sometimes we feel so much pain, right? So all these are changing all the time. It's said that they are mental states in which how our mind responds to the outer external happenings. Now let's say take for instance a gain. Let's say you get a gain, maybe you get a good job, maybe you get a promotion, and what happens to you could be mostly is that you think this is permanent, and then you trying to think that this will be the same for your future, but in the future you might not work as you did before to get this promotion. So it does not sort of make sure that you will get the same. So what happens is that when you get a gain, you could be too aggressive about the gain, and then you sort of like I would say you sort of putting your mind into a place where your mind sort of like stays in an illusionary place, but your gain can change in the next month. Your gain can change in the next promotion. You could be demoted too, right? In the same way, what about I would say what about a loss, right? What if you lose your job, right? Sometimes you might if you are too concerned about this loss of your job, you could be thinking that I was sort of like incompetent, I was sort of like not perform enough about the job, so that you are overthinking and you are so much putting thoughts into that incompetency and sort of inadequacy of your job. But if you understand that this happened because of something, because we always know that cause and effect is the main phenomenon that we know from Buddhist teaching. So even if you fail, even if you get demoted, but you have a better chance, maybe you have a good chance next time. Do not just hold on to that particular loss. Otherwise you will feel so much bad about you because of this incident. So loss, gain. See what can happen to someone if someone is taking gain in a sort of a way that is not really balanced. We call it upekkha, right? Also take a look of how someone can take loss in one's life, taking it in a way so much permanent. What about a praise, right? You might be complimented today, and on another occasion you might not be doing the same as you expected, and then you will be blamed, constructively blamed, and then you might think, oh, what happened to me? So this is why we need to study this particular sutta, to find out the connection, to understand the fundamental idea of the Dharma Sutta. So this sutta that I've been just sharing with you is a Vitatta Loka Dhamma Sutta, and I've been explaining to you that 8 worldly conditions: gain, loss, disrepute, fame, blame, praise, pleasure, and pain. They are called 8 worldly conditions, or 8 vicissitudes. They revolve around the world, and the world revolve around them. So the world means inner world inside of us. Now, what happens with these 8 is, there are 2 people. One is uninstructed worldling, Putujjana, while the other one is instructed Arya Savaka. Now, uninstructed worldling means someone who is not still going on the path to Nibbana. And the person who is called instructed Arya Savaka is the one who is already on the path to Nibbana. Okay? So there are 2 people like that. The way how these 2 people handle these 8 worldly conditions, or 8 worldly vicissitudes, it could be different. Let's take a look at how the both handle. Now, I understand the reason why, according to the Dharma Sutta, why people already fall prey, to material possessions, honor, and popularity, is that they do not understand how to handle these 8 conditions, especially because popularity and honor, they are part of this too, right? Even including material possessions. Let's take a look of how 2 people, I would say unwise person and wise person, handle these 8 conditions, or these things that everybody likes. Both uninstructed worldling and instructed noble disciple meet these 8 worldly conditions, but there is distinction and disparity. Let's take a look. Assutavato bhikkhave putujjanassa uppajjati labhopi alabhopi, etc., etc. Sutavatopi bhikkhave arya savakassa uppajjati labhopi alabhopi, etc., etc. Tatra bhikkhave ko viseso ko adiphayaso. Asutavato bhikkhave putujjanassa uppajjati labho so iti na patisanchekkati. Uppanno ko me ayang labho socha ko aniccho dukkho viparinama dhammoti yatha bhutang nappajanati uppajjati alabho, etc., etc. Now, the first thing why a lot of people fall prey to these obstructions, spiritual obstructions, not even those 3, but also 8 worldly conditions, is that these people do not view these 8 worldly conditions as well as those specific 3, material possessions, honor, and popularity, in this way. When an uninstructed worldling meets with gain, labha, she does not reflect thus. The gain that I have met is impermanent, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and subject to change, viparinama dhamma. He does not understand it as it really is. So the main reason why many people fall prey to 8 worldly conditions as well as those main spiritual obstructions is that they never put any of those 8 worldly conditions or spiritual obstructions. I would say all these are spiritual obstructions, these 8 worldly conditions, under anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So that's called yatha bhuta jnana darsana, right? Not even that. Another thing which is very important. Tassapi labhopi chittam pariyadaya tittati, alabhopi chittam pariyadaya tittati. When someone does not put one's labho, I would say gain, loss, disrepute, or praise, or whatever the eight conditions, or any other obstructions, especially including those three obstructions, spiritual obstructions, then what happens? Their mind is having a hard time. See, gain obsesses his or her mind, and loss obsesses his or her mind. So vice versa. So what happens is that the particular condition obsesses one's mind, plus the opposite of the condition, which I would say gain and then loss, obsesses his or her mind. So they are interconnecting and influencing each other, right? So the mind is so much obsessed from the both sides. So it's like polarizing, right, from the both sides. And not even that too, he is attracted to gain and repelled by loss. So then what happens after some time, when people only like the positive sides of the conditions or spiritual obstructions, then what happens? Their minds are more into those gains and fame and whatever the things. Not, they are repelled by the opposite. So they are not able to sort of stay balanced with the negative side of those effects. So you can't say that you can be with the positive sides all the time. So because they are worldly conditions, vicissitudes, they could come at different times. Thus, involved with attraction and repulsion, he or she is not freed from birth, from old age and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, dejection, and anguish. She is not freed from suffering. So the main reason why people are not able to get rid of the samsara, and not even samsara, even from this life, especially from the spiritual obstructions in this case, obstructions that are harmful to one's nibbanic path, is that they do not understand how to view those conditions based on anicca, dukkha, anatta. So if you can put any of your situations, be that a gain, be that a loss, be that a honor, be that a dishonor, be that a praise, be that a censure, be that a pleasure, be that a pain, if you can put all these situations with anicca, dukkha, anatta perspective, and then you will not let them go over the others, the other aspect of the particular mental state. So what I encourage you to do is to have a mental neutrality. So we should be able to maintain a mental neutrality where you are not becoming so much happy, where you are not getting so much unhappy, because these two are sort of I would say extremes of mental states. You better be on upekkha. So upekkha is a very good teaching, because in the Buddhist teachings we understand upekkha by different teachings, and upekkha is the ultimate characteristic to develop in the Buddhist teachings. If you can take a look at of the paramitas, perfections, you see upekkha is the highest, because a lot of people, they can get rid of being too much happy or too much unhappy. So they are kind of like stuck into the both side of mental states. But if people can be neutral, not neither so much happy, no so much unhappy. They are having a really good time. That's where Buddha says upekha can function well. Now, if you go to Abhidhamma, in the Abhidhamma, you also understand a particular another word for upekha, tatra majjhatata. Tatra majjhatata means where the middle of the issue lies. So when you take a look at of any issue, any situation, if you can stay in the middle of that particular thing, say if there is a pleasure, if there is a pain, but if you are trying to be in the middle of that particular mental state, you are really handling that particular thing way better than anybody, way better than you did before. So I would encourage you to practice upekha to take care of the, take care of you, especially to take care of the spiritual obstacles, so obstructions. So if you are really thoughtful about spiritual obstructions, as in the Dharma Sutta, as we said, material possessions, honor, and popularity, one of the things the best thing you could do is practice upekha at all times, because upekha helps anyone to practice to get rid of spiritual obstructions, as well as 8 worldly conditions, because 8 worldly conditions also come from these spiritual obstructions. Because if you can handle 8 worldly conditions, you will not be able to handle spiritual obstructions as well. So now upekha is one of the paramitas, as I said, perfections, as well as upekha is one of the 4 illimitables. So you can limit the strength of upekha. If you can see Chatu Brahma Viharas, 4 illimitable, 4 divine abodes. Now, a lot of people ask, how can we live like a deva? You can live like a deva only by practicing 4 things: metta, karuna, mudita, and upekha. So if you practice metta means, there are different means. I would say metta is basically you're trying to understand how to stay with other people, as well as you are treating everybody same, and then you are talking to people with metta, you are thinking thoughts with metta, and then you are acting things with metta. Karuna is a developed state of metta, where you understand the problems of people. Compassion, kindness, empathy, different terms, but I would say compassion and kindness. Mudita is altruistic joy, where you can really be happy when other people succeed. If you are jealous, if you are envious, you will never make that happen, right? But that's why it says it is also one of the divine qualities. And then finally, mudita, equanimity. So devas are mostly living in balance. So basically, I would say, if you want to be a deva in the human life, so practice these 4 simultaneous. Some people only practice 1 or 2, or just as some aspect dimensions of 1 or 2, but you need to simultaneously practice these 4. So mudita in that way is one of the 4 illimitables or divine abodes, as well as it's one of the perfections. So what you need to understand is that upekha or equanimity is the best thing that you need to practice. How can we practice equanimity? So the first thing is you need to practice yoniso manasikara. Now, yoniso manasikara, what is yoniso manasikara? Being able to understand everything from its origin. Now, you need to understand Paṭisota too, if you really want to practice yoniso manasikara, because if you want to understand any situation, phenomenon, inside, outside, around, beyond, then you try to understand how it happened, how it arose, and how it exists, how it will go away, and all these cause and effect related things, right? And then you practice anicca dukkha anatta, which we call vipassana inside method. If you put anicca into any situation, or I would say if you put not anicca, you are putting, let's say if you understand the anicca nature of the situation, if you understand the dukkha nature of anything, if you understand the anatta nature of anything, especially in that situation, then you have vipassana yoniso manasikara. So when you practice this vipassana or yoniso manas, the same thing, yatha bhuta jnana darsana. Now the sutta itself says that in this second sutta we just talked about, then you particularly understand how you can practice upekkha. So where and when you need to practice, you can practice upekkha. So in particular, you need to understand that when you know that this is the time I need to practice upekkha, this is a place where I feel so much complimented, this is a place I feel that so much upset, so much annoyed, this is a place where I feel so much praise, so much blame, so much gain, so much happy, so much unhappy, then you're trying to refine that state of mind. You are not letting your mind just to stay there for long. Say, okay, I'm so much happy and I want this happiness to be long, but it won't be like that, right? That's why you need to bring upekkha. Okay, this is something that made me happy, but I really want to stay into upekkha. I want to stay with upekkha, so that I'm not so much shaken. Now the people who think that those states are permanent, what can happen to them is that they will be really unhappy when that particular state of mind changes. This is where Buddha says those people have not practiced anicca dukkha anatta nature of that particular condition. So let's say you are happy, then you're gonna look at anicca nature of that happiness, dukkha nature of that happiness, anatta nature of that happiness. Then what happens? It's pretty easy for you to understand the upekkha nature or upekkha quality, and how you can practice upekkha quality with this particular condition. So bring upekkha mentality and then upekkha practice into all the situations where you feel that you are handling with spiritual obstructions as well as 8 worldly conditions. If you bring upekkha practice into all those situations, then you are really good and you are really handling those spiritual obstructions as well as 8 worldly conditions or vicissitudes really well. So there are teachings where we find out there are 2 enemies of upekkha. Now we need to know who they are, especially these arise when you really want to practice them. The far enemy of upekkha or equanimity is greed and resentment. Now we know greed is a big problem, and it's an akusala, is also an akusala root, as well as it is related to many other akusala activities, as well as resentment. Resentment is a big problem, right? So when you are resentful, and then it could be another akusala. It's one of the upakilesas too. So the near enemy of upekkha is apathy. Apathy is a sort of aloofness, indifferent. So some people think that practicing upekkha means that they are indifferent to anything. No, it's not being indifferent. Upekkha means that you try to understand anicca nature of the situation, that particular situation, condition, dukkha nature of that particular condition, anatta nature of that particular condition. So that's called upekkha. So when you are indifferent, you sort of like uh, aloof, and you are sort of like not particularly understanding what's going on, and it can bother you next time too, right? So upekka practice means that you are understanding that particular condition or situation with anicca dukkha anatta, I would say vipassana attitude. So that means upekka practice connects to vipassana, yatha bhuta jnana dassana yoniso manasikara, this whole practice, right? They are not standalone. How can you practice upekka? And we know there are a couple of things you can do. A lot of things, especially my personal advice to you is that try to practice vipassana first, because vipassana practice is also supported by yoniso manasikara, so that you can bring upekka practice into any situation, be that a spiritual obstruction or eightwardly condition of vicissitudes. Before I finish, I wanna share with you a couple stories where Buddha dealt with some of the conditions. Now, if you can remember, in one of his Vassana retreats, the person who invited him could not support the Buddha, right? We know that Venerable Arahant Moggallana was trying to bring some food by using his psychic powers, but anyways, he was not unhappy, right? So even though he sort of like met with this lack of food thing, but he was just able to face it, and because he didn't feel unsatisfied, right? And what happens with Bandula Malika? In the story of Bandula Malika, we know that she was offering food, dana, to Venerable Sariputta and other monks. And then what happened? There was a sort of a sound of breaking kind of a pot or something, and then the person who inadvertently, unintentionally broke it was so much upset, embarrassed, because she or he thought that the lady Bandula Malika would sort of like blame her. And what happened was that at that time Venerable Sariputta was giving a short advice to Bandula Malika, saying that everything that is fragile is going to break. And then Bandula Malika told Venerable Sariputta and other monks, Venerable Sir, you know what? I just got a message from the battlefield where my husband and my other children were fighting with other, I think, kind of a vessel king. And then they all, the message says that they all died in the battlefield. So I read it and I put it in my pouch, and I'm still offering dana, food, to the monks. So if I had, if I had been shaken by, anything like that, I would have not offered dana. That means that she was so much into understanding of what's going on. So she was able to see what happened with anicca, dukkha, and anatta, which is pretty harder thing for all of us. How can someone keep doing a good thing while she or he was said that the biggest and the darkest thing happened in his or her life? So much encouragement. So there are many other stories, and that's where we talk about Tadi. We always talk about a quality that Buddha had called Tadi. Tadi means Buddha had this unshakable nature of his mental states. For example, that we know there were heretics who were trying to put blame on the Buddha. In many of those stories, we know that they were trying to sort of like blame the Buddha in different ways, but Buddha never wanted to get discouraged, and he was not fighting, but he was sort of understanding what's going on. So that's how Buddha faced all that. So we have to learn a lot of things from his life, not just from his teachings. That's why I have this suggestion to many people that before you want to learn what he taught, please try to learn his life, wherein which how he dealt with these different individuals, and also with his personal life, and how he sort of manage the spiritual obstructions as well as eight worldly conditions. Because now if you once again take a look at I would say material possessions and honor and popularity, and there were a lot of popularity type of things and gains and possessions he got, but he was not so much happy or so much unhappy about those things. He was treating all those people with upekkha. And so the best thing that we have to learn from his character is that we should be able to practice upekkha at all times, not just be so much into the positive side or into the negative side. So we have to find out the balance in any of the situation. So that's the main thing that I've been trying to teach you today. So once again, I want to recap everything what I've been sharing with you. So we've been talking about obstructing spiritual progress are threefold. We were talking about there are three things that obstruct the spiritual progress. They are material possessions, we call labha, honor, sakkara, and popularity, siloka. It is not only relevant to the monks and nuns, but also to all the people, lay people too. The main difference is that because Buddha never says that there is how the monastics do, and there is how the lay people do. So the only classification he makes is that uninstructed worldling and instructed Arya Savaka, right? That means whoever, regardless of monastics or lay people, they all put into these two. That means we all need to understand. But in the case of monastic, what happens is that they are not supposed to keep any of those things, which is pretty easy for them to practice. But still, there could be some dangers when they, try to do things with people. Now, in today's world, we know that they also have to sort of live with people. So when they work with people, material possessions, gains, and I would say honor and popularity could be imminent things. So they have to be very careful, right? Otherwise, they might be slaves too. For the lay people, in particular, they need to understand that even though they need these three to have an ordinary life, but do not try to be a slave to any of these things. Do not try to be a slave to material possession, gain, or popularity. So that's the main thing that I've been talking today, and I hope you learn the important things of this sutta. Especially you need to practice upekkha to get rid of these spiritual obstructions. And I don't see any questions popping up, so let's share all the good karmas with the deities and the departed relatives. May all the departed relatives share in all these good karmas. May they be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Let's share all the good karmas with the devas who protect all of us. May the devas be happy and peaceful. May they also attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana, as well as may they protect and bless all of us. Ettavata cha ammehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti sindhya akasattha cha bhummattha devanaga mahindika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu lokasasanang chirang rakkantu desanang chirang rakkantu mang parante. Finally, let's make a great wish. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'm going to be blessing you with a couple more stanzas. Please receive the blessings. Abhivadana Siddhissa Nichang Vaddha Pachayino Chattaru Dhamma Vaddhanti Ayuvanno Sukhang Balang Ayurarogya Sampatti Sagga Sampatti Mevacha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminati Saminchatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. This Wednesday, as you all know, that thank you. There's a compliment from Darlene, which sound lucky. Thank you so much for your compliment. But keep in mind that we shouldn't be, so much stuck into any of the ends of any conditions, right? As we've been talking. So this Wednesday, upcoming Wednesday, we'll be having a discussion with Professor Tilakari Vasam. It's going to be on what is it that prevents for people to live to the full potential. So this is a really interesting discussion, and you could watch. And what holds back, what stop humans, people, in not being able to live to the fullest in their life. So please join with us on YouTube channel, Paṭisota YouTube channel. So please stay tuned to Paṭisota YouTube channel this Wednesday. Thank you. Have a good night. Take care.